What's up, BB Besties? I have a live feed update today.
Hey, BB friends, here's a quick update.
Welcome to the Girl Gab podcast. Join your hosts, Allie and Nikki.
Welcome back to the Girl Gab podcast. It's your special edition of Waffle Wednesday. And joining me, I have my co-host as usual, Nicolette, but we also have a special guest. And that special guest's name is Amy. Introduce yourself, Amy.
Hey guys, thank you so much. I am Amy Stevens, and I was on the one and only season of CBS The Summit.
The one and only season, yes. So
It's been out. It's okay.
So I thoroughly enjoyed watching the summit, and I hadn't realized, but Amy had sent me a DM on my TikTok during Big Brother season. I went on pushing through the season, started covering the summit, and then I'm just scrolling through DMs one day, and I was like, "Is that real Amy Stevens?" And it was. So it was a message about Big Brother. It had nothing to do with the summit. I was like, wait a second. Like, first of all, agree with your Big Brother take, but also, like, are you Amy from the summit? And we just chit-chatted pretty much throughout the rest of the summit season. Feel like Amy deserves a little bit of justice. I really enjoyed watching Amy, and I feel like Amy was, Amy, your edit wasn't what I gave you justice is all I'm going to say. I feel like I could see through that edit, okay? I could tell that you deserved a little bit stronger edit than what they gave you. They kind of made you look a little whiny or a little like you were falling back. Yeah, but you were, from what I understand, you actually had an injury that they didn't even discuss. They didn't talk about really, right?
Yeah, everybody always says the dreaded edit, but I mean, I was myself. It's going to be great. Edit what you want. But oh my God, like I was like, do I cry them? Am I that dramatic? My God. Yeah, but you know what? It was such a great experience, Allie. And I mean, who can say they were on reality TV? Not there. I mean, I know there are a lot of reality TV shows and a lot of different networks, but I mean, it's a very small group of us. And to be selected was beyond anything I ever could have imagined. So I was very, very grateful and still am for the experience. My toenails, not so much.
Yeah, so that's what happened, right? Like in one of the very early weeks, you injured a toe or both of your toes, and it didn't really make the edit, but they were doing some additional stuff behind the scenes that you thought was going to be, it was filmed, you thought it was going to make the show, but it didn't quite make the show. So
yeah, so episode 2, you heard us, like you heard Manu say, we're going to go uphill, then we're going to go downhill. I didn't know I've never hiked a day in my life. And you're supposed to lace your boots a different ways for you hikers out there. And my toenails were jammed into the front of my boots on day 2. And I just thought, oh, that's not good. So I just taped them up. Everybody was just taping things up, just tape them up. No hot spots. And it was probably day 5. And I'm like, hey, there's something wrong. And I was afraid to take off my bandages. And when I did, my toenails were no longer on my toes. They were sitting on top of my toes. Like the nail bed had totally lifted. Yeah, so they started putting some medicine on it. And then they started actually on day 7 drilling into my toenails with a little drill on the mountain.
dying.
Yeah, so fun. And then, everybody's like, she's so whiny. I'm like, I'm kicking my feet in the snow day 8, 9, 10, and 11 with these pulpy little messes of toenails. So I sent you pictures. You saw. We don't have to show anybody here, but it's not good.
Yeah, it looked uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. I don't even like pedicures. I just like the pampering part. Don't mess with my toenails. So I did lose both toenails when I got home. I had to see a medical doctor in the States, and they were removed medically, and they're fine. And they just now grew back. So I had my first pedicure 2 weeks ago, and I have 2 fresh toenails on my 2 big toes.
Wait a second, just now, it is almost May 2025. When did they fall off?
It took 1 year and 7 months for them to grow back. I had them removed the first week of December in 2023. And then they took a year and a half to grow back. But it's okay. I survived. My toenails made it.
Justice for Amy's toenails. Justice for Amy's toenails.
Hashtag Nicolette.
So tell me, how did you end up getting on the summit? Did you just apply online or?
I didn't even know the summit existed. Applied.
Me either.
My last daughter left for college in 2021, and we're sitting here at the house. My husband was like, what's something you always dream? I was like, I want to go on Big Brother. So I just put my little camera out in the front yard and sat there, and I made a 4-minute video, and I hit submit and didn't even think anything about it. I sent it in, and then they called me like few months later, and that was in 2021. So I got a phone call. Hey, you did great. We want to go a little further. I went a little further in the process and I didn't end up making it, which was fine. And then, your casting director's like, hey, I really liked you. We'll keep you in mind. We'll call you if something else comes up. And they called. And they called me in June of 2023. They called me in June of 2023 and said, hey, there's a new show. Can't talk to you about it. No idea the network. Can't tell you that. Can't tell you where you're going. Can't tell you what you're going to be doing. It's going to be fun. You want to do it? And I was like, sure. Venture Amy was born.
Yeah, so you genuinely had no idea where you were going.
No. You know what's so funny about the internet, Allie, is everyone's like, oh my gosh, these people knew they were climbing a mountain. I did not know. I didn't even know who Manu Bennett was. My husband knew him because he watches like Spartacus and all that. I didn't know who he was.
I didn't know him either.
He walks out and all the cameras are on him. So I'm figuring this is kind of important. And I'm like, what are we doing? Are we camping? Are we going to go hiking?
You walked out.
Walked
out.
They drive us in those. You see the SUVs come out. We'd never been there
so
before.
So you didn't know where you were going until you were there.
There was no mountain involved. I mean, I flew to New Zealand, so I thought we were going to go bungee jumping because Queenstown, New Zealand, is where they go bungee jumping. We were going to do an adventure, like Fear Factor. That's kind of what I thought I was doing. And here comes Manu and his really handsome self. And he's like, your challenge is to reach the summit. And you can hear me. If you go back and watch, I'm like the summit? We could climb a mountain? Oh my God. And everyone thought what Jenny said. That's a big ass mountain. It was really daunting. So that's when we found out. True story, 100%. We had no idea what we were doing until that moment. And you saw that on TV. That was a 100% actual moment.
And despite you not having any idea what you were getting into, you did really well. You made it really far. And in fact, based on what they showed me on the edit, you were essentially the deciding factor. At least that's what they edited for the viewer on who
I definitely
would receive the money.
That day on the mountain, we were told, that day that there was going to be a vote to decide who would get the extra money that the mountaineers that didn't make it we're gonna put that money back into play. And I'm kind of sitting there with everybody else and I'm listening to everybody cast their votes. And I realized at the end, I'm like, oh God, it's 6-6-2. I'm going to be the deciding vote. And so you see me put my head in my hands and cry.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And it was tough. And it was tough that day, but I didn't realize how tough it would be watching it back. Because after you're watching it back, you have the pleasure then of watching the whole season and of conversations you didn't hear and things you didn't, so then you kind of start doing a whole lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda. So
yeah,
I stick behind my
tough
vote,
on
though.
You with your decision too. So
it was, and I know you and I had a conversation on the side. I still stand behind my decision to this day. Watching it back and knowing the things I knew about that mountain and the things I knew on that mountain and my truth, I made the right decision for my game.
And that's what matters, right? Because you didn't know what you probably had no idea you were until after you were eliminated. You're like, oh, I guess I'm not going home yet, so I must be going to a jury. Which I am not a proponent for people being surprised by juries. I think that you should be able to prepare for having a jury incorporated in a game show. My personal opinion is that way. So your jury management is important, right? So you should know that as you're proceeding through the show, and you should know that as you're eliminated to be thinking about what you're going to be doing. But this was sprung on all of you guys.
Now, be honest with you, you have to realize we're all reality TV fans just like you are. So all we knew was Big Brother. All we knew was Survivor.
True.
So we're just assuming.
No, you were thinking it.
We're assuming there's going to be a jury, and that's why I got let go.
That's good.
They will all tell you that. They're like, Amy, you voted against the group with almost every single vote. You were playing your own game, damned what everybody else was going to do, and we thought you were being an excellent jury person. And I'm like,
so it worked against you.
I wish I could take more credit for that. I was just trying to survive every damn day, Allie. I was just trying to get one step up the mountain. So but what a compliment to say you were voted out because you're a social queen. Thanks, Shweta. That's my name.
Justice for Amy, justice for Amy's toe, and I want to see you on any other show you apply for. I thoroughly enjoyed watching not only the summit, but I really enjoyed watching you.
Appreciate that. And even Rob has a podcast. They were like, Amy's getting a winner's edit. And I'm like, Rob has a podcast with my name.
I thought you were. I really enjoyed you. But and that brings us to the reason why you're here today is because you are a reality TV fan, and one of your favorites is Big Brother, if not your favorite, right?
Yes, it is my favorite.
And how long have you been watching Big Brother?
I have gone back now and watched season 1 and 2 because it's available, on Paramount. But I started watching live in season 3. So that's a long time.
Ooh, and you're a live feeder too, right? You watch a little bit of the live feeds or keep up on Reddit and all that, or?
I don't watch the live feeds, but honestly, you're very good at recapping the live feeds. So I don't feel like I have to watch the live feeds. Go on to Reality Allie and she'll tell me. But there is so much information on social media that you could just kind of get the gist of what's happening. Like all the stuff that happened last season with Angela and all that. I knew about all that from watching you and a bunch of other people on the live feed. So I don't subscribe to the live feeds. But yeah, I love Big Brother.
But you want the spoilers. So yeah. I love a person that wants to be up with like even if you're not watching the feeds, I think my personal opinion is always there's so much more context that you get about a show from the feeds, whether you're getting it from secondhand information on Twitter or Reddit or TikTok or watching it yourself. There's so much more information. Like that Angela edit, for example. There was a lot more information that we got from the live feeds that we on the edit that they gave her on the show. So
you don't realize that, but I played a game in real life and I saw, we were filming for 16 to 18 hours a day. And they showed that to you in a 90-minute segment. So there was so much stuff that I lived that I'm like, as a reality TV fan, I think the viewers really would have connected differently to us, but I'm not a producer or an editor. So we don't.
I see why they gave you a callback for Big Brother because you are so animated. Like you would have been so great on Big Brother.
I appreciate that.
Probably wouldn't have hurt your toes. So
probably not. I might not.
Your toes would have survived.
My toenails, it would have made it.
So what we've been talking about on Waffle Wednesday is our favorite chaos creators throughout all of the seasons of Big Brother. And one of the favorites that you have is Rachel Reilly. So that is who we are going to talk about. So everyone buckle up, floaters, grab your life vests, because we're going to talk about Rachel. Rachel Reilly was on BB season 12 and then returned for BB season 13. What is your favorite memory of Rachel Reilly? Do you have one?
I think that my favorite memory that involves Rachel is actually when Brittany, Matt, and Reagan are in her HOH room and they put on her extensions, and then she ends up coming in there and seeing that going on, and she just plays it off and like laughs about it. That will always be one of my favorite Big Brother moments. It's hilarious.
Love that moment. What do you think? Do you like that moment too, Amy?
Yeah, I just really think, we'll get into more of my Rachel thoughts later, but I think really Rachel can laugh at herself. And that's one thing I love about Rachel. Like, you see all these different layers of Rachel. And you're like, who is this girl? Does she really talk like that? Does she really laugh like that? Is she really like that? And I think that you see her be unapologetically herself. I'm a Rachel fan. I think she's definitely in BB royalty as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And my take on Rachel is truly that watching it live time BB12, because I was not like a live feed watcher BB12, BB13. I really didn't start getting into regular feeding until later on. But watching her and the edit that she was given, I think she was ahead of her time because people were being made fun of for having boob jobs and Botox back then, as we saw Reagan made fun of her for those things. But she was unapologetically, like you said, herself, because she just owned up to all those things. But she was also really smart. She was a scientist. She was also like, she was very obnoxious and very annoying. But those are the type of players that in 2025 BB, I like those types of players. So, she was just ahead of her reality TV time. So we're going to get into a little bit of that and what made Rachel a chaos creator in the Big Brother community. So one of the first things that I think we should probably mention is Rachel versus Kristen. Well, let's start with BB12. If you remember, Kristen is the person that Rachel called out after. This is another reason that I say, this is like squirrel brain right now, but we need to have live HOHs. I loved the AI arenas, but we need more live HOHs because these types of moments occur because the camera just cut from the live episode and now Rachel's got that key around her neck and she's just gonna talk her crap. She's just gonna talk her shit. And that's exactly what she did. She looked at Kristen and was like, floaters, grab your life vest. Kristen, I'm talking to you.
Kristen.
Yeah, and that's such a moment that you can't edit in. It's like, to your point, you need to have the cameras that keep rolling because that is such a raw emotion. And we'll talk about her later, but she gets very upset when she's fantastic. She's great TV. But yeah, that was like a true, authentic, like she was coming after them because they had to come after her all season. So she was not going to let Kristen go down without, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in this specific part was, Brendan and Rachel had been targeted for multiple weeks for being a couple. And this moment is right after Captain Kosher had outed the Kristen and Hayden showmans. And so there was all that pent up emotion from Rachel of like, y'all have been part of the people targeting us for something that you're just hiding. We're out in the open. We're being honest about it. And you're the ones that are hiding it. So it was just all of that coming out right at Kristen in that moment.
It became, I started out by saying it was Kristen versus Rachel, but it really became Kristen and Hayden versus Rachel and Brennan, because if you recall, Rachel was like, she's holding that shoe in her hand and she's like, and by the way, I heard you and Hayden making out last night.
Yeah, it's like, no, we weren't. Like, we were not doing that because they saw what a target it put on Rachel and Brendan for that. I mean, they were making out like day 3 or 4, right? In the hammock. Like, they were pretty quick in their showman.
Yeah.
But I just think that one thing I always say, like in life, in real life, is because there's reality TV life in real life. If it's true, it's not rude. And I think that if you think that philosophy with Rachel, like she just would call you out. Maybe the way she did things, the way she kind of came at Kristen. But Floaters Grab a Life Vest was even played in this last season. They played that as like a back. That's a sound that's iconic in Big Brother.
Iconic.
Because it was on the fly and she said it. But she was being truthful. She felt Kristen had done nothing. Rachel had been fighting for her life, for her and Brendan's life, week in and week out. And Kristen's doing nothing but doing what she's pissed off with Rachel and Brendan about, making out with Hayden in the wherever they were making out. And she just said that.
Making out. I believe
find her rude at all. She's truthful. And sometimes people don't like truth. That makes them uncomfortable.
I mean, I'm so glad that you said that, Amy, because a good friend of mine once told me, because you know me and I'm gonna speak my mind. A friend of mine once told me that just because it's true doesn't mean I have to say it. And so I am now going to take your philosophy and I'm gonna say everything that comes to my mind. Because if it's truthful.
Yeah, it's just in your delivery. We learned in Rachel, maybe it's just the way you deliver it.
That's how the law says it, right? Like if it's truthful, it's not slander,
Careful over there with your truth serum this week.
I've been watching too much true crime with the Karen Reed trial. Okay, so but no, like the iconic, I love that you said that because Rachel had so many iconic, that wasn't the only, we'll get into those a little bit, especially when we start talking about the next one, but Rachel had so many iconic one-liners and she still does. I mean, like you said, those things are continuing on and being replayed and mentioned over and over and over again throughout the BB community. One of my favorite moments from Rachel, to move on to the next one, is the Pandora's box. Brendan opened the Pandora's box and then it unleashed Rachel back into the house, and BB12 hated Rachel. I mean, Rachel was really only liked by Brendan. I mean, she just really didn't have, I guess she had maybe like 1 or 2 friends initially, but they just picked her tribe off so quickly, her alliance off, that like she really didn't have anyone. And unfortunately for Rachel, not only did he unleash her to the house, but then she's like looking for him and he was so. But and I will say this a little bit against Rachel, to play a little bit of devil's advocate. She did roll in way too hot. And the thing about Rachel is she would provoke someone and then follow them around the house, which was wonderful TV for us.
Yeah.
But as a person in the house, and you were on a reality show, so you could probably speak on this, but you'd probably be a little annoyed. Like, can you please give me a little space?
Just going to keep picking that scab until it festers. And I'm going to tell you, look at Josh, years after Rachel, like he would, like everybody kind of picked up cues from Rachel. Now, Dick had done it before, yes, but Rachel, it would kind of be cringy because we talked about it earlier. That wouldn't be allowed now. She came in hot, but that was like, it made me like a little uncomfortable. Like if we're thinking about today's standards and how we don't promote that kind of.
Yeah, Rachel came in HOT hot. And Reagan, what he said, like what you were saying, what he said back to her was like, girl, if you would have come in here, we can have we're not happy to see you. Yeah, we're not happy to see you, but we could at least have a nice 24 hours if you can come in here and be chill and be classy. But like, you're not doing that. You're continuing to provoke us. And like, honestly, like good for him for standing up for, like,
But don't you think
business.
even in other years, like when Jesse got put back into the house, it was supposed to be a punishment. So Rachel's supposed to be annoying. She's not supposed to come back in and go,
Right.
True.
She's sorry I got voted out. I'll do better. That's not what she's supposed to do.
Production
true.
definitely
That is
stoked
true.
the fire.
They
Yeah,
probably said go in there and just,
cause the drama.
It's true. And that's why she was invited back for two reasons. One, because she was crazy and we loved her. And two, because of the Rachel and Brendan pair, and then they brought that twist back. But like that's a big reason why she was invited back, right? Is because of her antics. So
Yeah,
that was really cool.
100%.
And a couple of the things that like I wrote down a few of the things because I went back and like rewatched that episode because I was like, I got to talk about some of the crazy things Reagan said because I loved his one-liners as well as Rachel's one-liners. But one of the things that I wrote down that, Rachel did say some things that I think that to this day she probably even regrets saying. Like, she said the infamous, do you have to be the biggest bitch because you're gay? Well, that would immediately get you canceled in today's terms. But back then we were like, not okay, but like very entertaining because it continued a argument. Like, it wasn't like people were like, oh my God, Rachel, like you're bullying him and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not what happened. It
not you except for the pimple on your face. Like,
exactly.
I'm down. Yeah. And then he
got away from you. I'm so sorry.
No,
Damn,
you're
Reagan,
fine.
that was a good one. And that was on the fly. That wasn't a diary room confessional. That was like them in the moment.
Favorite lines that I'm embarrassed to say runs through my head on a regular basis is when Reagan's like, I'm done with it, baby, because I'm done with you.
It's just the way he says it.
Baby. Like the way he says baby. Like
Yeah.
I really did like
Hilarious.
Reagan. I was really sad that Reagan didn't. Yeah, I liked Reagan.
Yeah. No, and then, and not to like jump too far ahead, but then they ended up in the jury house together. And like, that was a funny, back then we got really cool jury house edits that we don't get today. And those were like some fun, especially when they found out that Matt, actually, I don't know if Reagan was there when it was announced, but when they found out that Matt lied about his wife having cancer.
Yeah.
That was
the bone disease.
I had forgotten all about that until I watched it. I'm like,
Kathy was pissed. Kathy was big mad because she was like a cancer survivor or something. She was like, "This is not cool."
Reagan was there, and him and Matt were they were really close, in the house. So he was really hurt by it. He got over it, like I think pretty quickly. In the moment, finding out about it, he was definitely like, dang, I don't know
Brendan
about this.
saying, "You're gonna burn somewhere, Matt," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm probably gonna burn somewhere."
Yeah, these flames were wild, bro. We would never even think about lying about something like that because you can check facts out now. Like you can't lie about things like that.
Yeah,
that's bad. That's bad juju.
He knew he was lying through his dang teeth, and he knew he was gonna tell him in that jury house.
Okay, here's a little bit about this part specifically.
So Nicolette, so you have been a part of Brittany's Patreon. So specifically about Reagan, you were going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. But I do want to talk about the Matt part real quick because Matt was on the week before Reagan was.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I didn't think we would get to Matt, but about this. So he said this lie about his wife. His wife had no idea he was going to do this. He came up with this lie and idea in sequester. He was like watching a documentary or something and they were talking about this bone disease and he was just like decided that he was going to go in there and say that his wife had this rare bone disease in the house.
She was mortified.
But then if you listen back, like if you go and rewatch the whole season, his first HOH win, her letter kind of like plays into this.
Really? What does it say?
I never know that she didn't know until I'm like, but didn't his like
what did it say?
Wow.
There was like a couple lines in there about how like everyone's been taking good care of her and like it's never like an actual health update or anything, but it does like kind of play into all of it.
It worked out perfectly. It was like a perfect Johnny Fair play moment.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so one thing that Reagan and Brittany talked about that like really never made the edit at all is that Rachel and Reagan were actually extremely good friends at the beginning of the season. Like going back to Matt's first HOH again, the brigade got really upset with Matt because he did not nominate Brendan and Rachel on that HOH. The reason for that is because, again, not aired on the show, the last two in that endurance comp were Reagan and Matt. As part of Reagan's deal with Matt to hand over that win to him is that he would not nominate Reagan or Brendan and Rachel. That was part of their agreement when Reagan dropped from that HOH comp, but that was cut out. You don't see any friendship between Reagan, Brendan, and Rachel at all.
Had no clue. Had no clue that Reagan was in any way, shape, or form friends with Rachel. They hated each other from my perspective.
Yeah, no, they were super, super close in the beginning of the season. And it was actually around this whole Kristen Floaters Grab a Life Fest thing that Reagan kind of flipped and was like, I don't know about all this. Like the energy you're putting out, I don't know if I can get by on that. Because he was also friendly with Kristen. He wasn't like super duper close, but like friendly. And so he was like, I wasn't really down with like the drama basically. And because he kind of turned against Rachel and Brendan or wasn't really protecting them anymore, that just kind of like amped up the animosity between the three of them or whatever. Now, do you remember that the twist of BB12 was the Saboteur?
Yes.
They got the Saboteur out week 1, but then there was an America's vote and Reagan becomes the Saboteur later in the season. So the week that Rachel got voted out, he was still had Saboteur stuff to do. He said that production really wanted him to do this Saboteur twist where he super glues the front door shut so that Rachel couldn't get out of the house. And he refused to do it. He said he was like trapped in the diary room for hours and they were like really pushing him.
Freaking go.
Yes.
I'll hold the door open for her.
Yes. And so, like, they were really trying to pressure him a lot. He has this theory, and I mean, he can't prove it. We can't, like, whatever. It's just his own theory. But they were really trying to pressure him a lot. And so his theory is after he finally said, like, no for a really long time, then they kind of, like, left him alone in the diary room while they went and had, like, a meeting. And during that time, he kind of changed his mind and he was like, whatever, I'll just do it because I don't want to, like, piss production off, basically. And so when they came back, he said that he would do it. And they were like, oh no, we have a new plan now. And he thinks that meeting is where it was decided that Rachel would come back for Pandora's box the following week.
Yeah. That's a good one.
That's crazy. No, I don't like to be one of those people that like has conspiracies about production, but like,
well, no, but going back to that, I do believe that. This is all published. I'm not saying anything that wasn't published. Kevin Lee, our producer, even said that they were making stuff up as we went along. When we saved one of our players, like when we saved Bo from the first challenge, and then they twisted our hand, they didn't know what we were going to do the next day. They forced our hand. They were making stuff up as we were fumbling along the way. So that's what I 100% believe.
That Bo thing was
Reagan
so
says
bad. So anything else that you remember, Nicolette, from the Reagan tea that was dished on?
I think so. I mean, I know that Reagan and Rachel became quick friends after the season, which Brittany and Rachel both Brittany and Reagan both kind of said, kind of like what we've already said, is that Rachel is really good about laughing at herself. And
I love that about her.
Yeah, and that she also is very similar to Brittany in the way that, like, reality TV game is reality TV game. Like, the game is the game and life is life. And so afterwards, if you wronged her in some way, but you apologize, she, like, takes that to heart and she's, like, good and ready to move on and, like, start clean and fresh with you. You know what I mean?
You know what, Nicolette, it's funny that you say that because one thing I actually was going to point out, because I think we're going to talk about the Rachel and Kathy like little squabble. But one thing that's really interesting to me is that you just said, Nicolette, that she thought the game was the game, but she really called people out for their morals and their integrity and their honesty. And those are character traits. Those are not game traits. Like, if you want to call Matt out for lying about his wife having cancer, you can, because he lied about his real life. But don't call me a liar, because that's me. That's not Amy playing the game. So when she was so pissed at Kathy, because Kathy wouldn't apologize to her, to your point, just apologize and move on. Kathy wasn't going to apologize. She's like, but that's your integrity and your morals and your values. You can't attack people for those personal things. Those are things that people see, and those live on the internet forever. So you can't attack people for that kind of stuff. So I'm surprised she said that she could just let the game be the game, because she said that, but then she kind of talked out of the other side of her mouth when she was like, shame on you, Kathy, for cheering when you beat me.
It's funny you bring that up, Amy, because the only other thing I have written down about the Reagan and Rachel thing is it kind of, I didn't think about this preemptively, but Reagan and Rachel in that argument were both having truths in their own way, because I didn't think about it in that aspect of like Rachel was also calling people out for their shit, but like Reagan, some of the things he said about her was everything about you is a lie. Your boobs are a lie. Your face is a lie. The only thing honest about you are the pimples on your chin. Like we said that before. But then something else he said was, you know, you're the wicked witch. Why don't you get back on your broom and fly back inside? You know, like he had his little one-liners, but like he was being so serious. Like, you're terrible to me. Go away. But like also you're a liar and you were a liar. And it doesn't mean that she was a liar to everyone. But in his perspective, she was lying to him. She wasn't on his side of the house and he didn't want to deal with her. And she was following him outside to pester him, which to your all's point is probably what she was instructed to do by production. So that is actually something I didn't think about is like, okay, Rachel was pestering him, probably at the hands of production asking her to, but like she was also being truthful. In her truth, he was not being truthful to her, and in his truth, she was not being truthful to him. So they were both, it's not like they were both being liars, it's that they both just had different sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also think just kind of like moving into the Kathy situation, I do agree with you, Amy. And I think that some of it too has to just do with like maturity now and immaturity back then because they were so much younger and they're now talking about it, you know, looking back or whatever. And I think that the Kathy moment is a lot of emotional immaturity from Rachel, 100%. Because we had seen Rachel celebrate her own wins 500 million times at this point. She was a really good competitor physically, and she celebrated every single win and cried every time she didn't. She threw a fit every time they lost. You know what I mean? Like, and so yeah, that's the Kathy thing was always just really crazy to me for her to expect Kathy of all people, the person who had been stuck in the honey, who falls if there's an opportunity to fall, like literally was fighting for her life in every competition, finally gets a small win and celebrates it. And then Rachel's like, you owe me an apology for that celebration.
But wait a minute, Rachel picked her. Wasn't that one of the ones you pick your person? So Rachel picked her because clearly she thought Kathy wasn't a good adversary. And then Kathy beats her and she's such a sore loser. You know, I think looking back at it now, even she's like, because I had to go, what's she pissed about? I had to rewind it. I'm like, what? Because if you just Google the Rachel and Kathy fight, it'll show you, you know, but I'm like, why is she so mad? And then I was like, really, Rachel?
Yeah.
Put that in one of your not finer moments because you're win graciously and lose graciously, and losing graciously she did not do.
You know what I love about Big Brother is when people don't win graciously. I love nothing more than watching Janelle rip a key out of somebody's hand. Like, I just freaking love it. I just love it. Like, I'm so sorry. I mean,
hey, it makes for good TV
I'm so
either
sorry
way.
to disagree with you, Amy, but I love a person that's not gonna win graciously.
No, but then if you're not gonna win, if you're not gonna lose graciously, don't expect other people to not be gracious when they win. Yeah, I have I love that.
No, I get it.
Girl,
as a viewer, as a viewer, I love a sassy player.
But to me, the funniest part about that whole season is they're like, I want to watch this. Like, I want to watch this. They'd run out to wherever it was happening so they could see or hear what was happening. They always were such little instigators. They just didn't want to be part of the tea. But they had no problem spilling it to somebody.
Yeah. Okay, here's another thing. This actually was something that Brittany talked about on today's episode. She was, and this is kind of like ties in with Traitors as well, Allie. I'm not sure if you watched Traitors or not, Amy, but
did you watch the Traitors?
Yes. I'm obsessed.
Okay, good. Perfect. So Brittany was talking about how during the Rachel and Reagan incident, how she was like watching it back, I'm such an idiot for like thinking that I was going to be extremely inconspicuous back there at like the pool table. She was like, clearly I was out there just trying to like get the tea, you know? She was like,
she was playing pool the whole time with that blanket like wrapped around her like this.
Yes. She was like, I never played pool, but I didn't want to be in the fight, but I wanted to hear the fight. So I went and pretended to play pool. But she was saying that like on the Traitors, that Bob the drag queen, he said that this is the moment that he remembers from Big Brother all the time the most.
Stop.
And he did not know that it was Brittany back there at the pool table. She had to like tell him and be like, I got to live that out live.
It's like on TikTok, have you seen those videos where it's like, it's like a person like vacuuming the front yard, like whenever the
Yes,
police are
when the
coming
cops are
by.
out. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's that
that's
one
me.
guy with his cat. But you
Love
know what's
it.
funny is like, you know, the John Keonis show, like, what would you do? I'm such a mom, Allie. Like, I'd be the one that's, I would not be good TV because I'd be like, guys, because I would not like all that confrontation. I would go out there, but I would try to split it up because there were a lot of mean things
would
said
too.
there, you know? And yeah,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't have
I
let it.
would
It would
too.
not have been as good TV. I would have let it, I would have made it stop.
So yeah, so then Rachel ends up, like I said before, she comes back for BB13,
Yeah.
which, you know, that's when we start seeing her with her Buki.
Yeah, call back to last episode.
It's one of my favorite things about, you know, because my biggest memories from BB13, because I was telling Nicolette about this before we got on today, like, I think I kind of checked out a little bit because I was so excited. I was an Evil Dick fan back then. I know he's problematic now and, like, you know, whatever. But, like, back then, I was a huge Evil Dick fan. And I was so sad to see him go that I think most of my memories are those first, like, 3 days that he was in the house. And I just
Mhm.
remember Rachel and Brennan getting into that Buki fight where she's like, and he's like so mad that they had
So
to go
offended.
they had to go to bed early that night.
I'll tell you though, like I remember Rachel, of course, from 12. That's where we met her. But
Yes.
13 was like
Yeah.
a defining season. To walk into the Big Brother house when you've already got the 8 house guests already in there saying, okay, like when they start coming in, it's us against them. And they were already she was an underdog from day one. And so as much as I love Janelle and as much as I love like even Frankie for all the times he had to come back from all this shit he got
Yeah.
himself into, Rachel really proved to be she will be a BB Hall of Famer forever because of how she had to play that season. It was guts or glory, man. She was going down day one. They were like, we got to get rid of her. And she busted ass that season. That's where I really, really, really grew my love for Rachel. Because when her back was against the wall, she had no choice and she thrived. And I love that about her.
Yeah, mad
100%.
respect. So do you guys have any like core memories of specifically like Rachel and Jordan's relationship? Because I know that they kind of like had a interesting dynamic during BB13. Especially because, you know, Jordan had her man, Rachel had her man.
Lost their men.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember. I went back and watched. They were kind of sweet. Like Jordan was the voice of reason. Going, now we shouldn't say that. Now, Rachel, let's not do that because Jordan realized her game was dependent on Rachel. That they were going to be these 3 couples that stuck to the end. They were dropping like flies. When Dick left first, their numbers automatically went down. I think it was their relationship was really sweet. I didn't remember it until you said, "Hey, what do you think about it?" And I'm like, I don't remember. And I went back and watched. I'm like, oh, I did love that. It was very unexpected, in my opinion.
Yeah, Jeff and Brendan
Yeah.
got into a pretty big fight right as soon as Dick left, if you remember, over that situation that you just touched on. Like, they were severely outnumbered at that point. And in addition, Danielle at that point was given the, whatever they called it, the twist that season,
Golden key.
the golden key. So that's where she kind of got close to Dominic because she only could use her social game at
Social
that point.
skills.
So everyone but all the returnees but Danielle were screwed. And Danielle also felt like she was screwed because she's like, okay, I'm going to get to this point in the season and then I'm still going to be screwed. Like, yeah. So it put them all in a really bad spot when Dick left.
Yeah, but I agree with what Amy said. I think that's what made such a big difference for Rachel in season 13 is having some, like, obviously she had Brendan in season 12 and also he came into season 13, but just something about her and Jordan's dynamic. Jordan was able to be that voice of reason for her. And there's way fewer fights for Rachel in season 13. And even the fights that she does get in are way tamer, way more mild than anything she did in season 13. And I really do think that her just being a tamer version of herself, she still had her one-liner. She was still fiery. She was still feisty, but it was just a different level of it. And I think Jordan had a lot to do with that.
One thing I remember being so cute is Rachel came outside and she was kind of huffy and puffy. And Jordan goes, what did you do now? Like, she knew Rachel had pissed somebody off or said something and it was going to affect Jordan's game. So Jordan's like, oh God, you could see Jordan trying to play like, because even when Dick came in, remember he was real smug as like the only winner. And Jordan's like, wait a minute, I won 2 years ago because Jordan was always so quiet and unassuming. And I think that was always what impressed me most about Jordan. And she was a great ally for Rachel because of her ability.
No,
Yeah, and they were kind of forced to be that duo since both of their partners got booted so early on in the season. Yeah. Kind of forced them to be together.
What did you think about the relationship between Rachel and Shelley, Amy?
You know, I thought that, they felt really betrayed by Shelley, right? Because Shelley kind of was on, especially with the Jeff and Jordan thing, she was really on their side. You know, again, we go back to Rachel from season 12 calling people out for their morals and their integrity and their honesty. And she kind of put Shelley on blast. But Shelley was in a really tough spot. You know, Shelley's trying to play both sides. So I think Rachel pulls real life into the game sometimes. And I didn't think it was fair to Shelley. I remember Shelley being very endearing and she was broken up about having to turn on, especially Jeff. And Rachel just let her have it. Like she was not letting her get away with, you know, with her reasoning or any excuse she was trying to make for that. So again, I thought Rachel, you know, could have been a little less harsh. Love you, Rachel.
Rachel is not a game is game type of girl, you know, and
But
that's
she
the type
said
of
she is, but she's not.
No, she's not. And that's the one like critique I will have about Rachel is of course, I'm a person that's not been on a reality show, but I would like to think that I'm a person that's like, at least as a viewer, I'm like game is game. Like, I feel like especially like when I do the live feed stuff, I'm like, you know, like I really like this person, but I understand why it was their time to go, or I understood why, you know, from what we don't see or whatever. But like, Rachel says, like you said, Amy, she says, you know, game is game and it's just game. But, and she's great and I love her, but no, she takes stuff personal, dude. She takes it to heart, especially when it comes to her man, Brendan.
No one mess with me and my man.
Exactly.
What did you think about Shelley, Nicolette?
Yeah, so I think, okay, a couple things. I do want to touch on the situation that Amy was talking about. I remember at that time, it was insane in real life because when Shelley made that choice, all of a sudden her family was getting like death threats
I
for
forgot about
turning on
that.
Jeff and Jordan, which is just absolutely crazy. But yeah,
Forgot about that.
yeah, wild that
Crazy.
people were doing that. But then also, the thing that I found most interesting about the Shelley and Rachel argument, or one of them, it was towards the beginning of the season, I think. I'm pretty sure, because I think Cassie, Shelley's partner, was still there. And normally, and Brittany has talked about this before, that something in season 12 that annoyed almost everyone is Brendan would automatically take Rachel's side. Like, he wouldn't even necessarily be in the room when the conversation happened or when an argument started, but Rachel was always right in his eyes, no matter what the situation was. And so it was interesting then watching season 13, and right here at the beginning of the season, it's not a big argument, it's just a little disagreement, but he decides to stay neutral, and she's kind of like taken aback at that time, and she's kind of like, Brendan, you're making me look like a liar because you're not taking my side. And he was like, I'm just gonna stay neutral, and she kind of keeps at him, and he eventually is like, yeah, Rachel's right, you know, whatever. But I thought it was interesting seeing their dynamic between the two seasons kind of change when it came to those arguments, for sure.
I named it a man like Brendan because, listen, I never really thought of that before, but I'm like, he is like I'm stand by my woman type of, like, he doesn't care if she is dead wrong.
No.
He is standing
My
by.
husband will call me out. My husband will call me out on my shit so fast. I do not have a friend.
Yeah.
But you know what I say?
You were wrong for that.
Yeah. And it's like, I say, like, that's what I want, but it's like, nah, in real life, I just want you to be for real. Like, be so for real right now with me. Don't have delusions of grandeur with me. Like, just.
You're having delusions of grandeur. Yes, we could bust out some Wiggins.
You to, like, hype me up, but, like, not unrealistically, you know?
Right.
Yeah. No, so does anybody else have any other, like, memories of Shelley? I really don't have much other than, like, some of the stuff you guys mentioned, I was just jogging my memory the whole time, so.
Yeah.
Okay, the only other person that I can think of that Rachel, like, memorable got into it with is, of course, we've touched on it slightly, but Danielle Donato. So she absolutely tormented Danielle at one point during BB13, and what I remember is when she's like, you know, Danielle's really upset. She's, you know, on the block or whatever. And Rachel's like, why are you so sad, Danielle? Because you're on the block? And she's like, no. And she's like, is it because it's your birthday and you're turning 25? I remember this one time when I turned 25, like last year.
Yeah.
So I was really sad, but then I just like got over it really quickly. Like,
yeah, but that goes back
this
to,
is why I love Rachel. Like, that stuff that she did back then really annoyed me. I was not a Rachel fan back then, but now
neither.
me now looking back and rewatching stuff, I'm like, she was great. That was great TV.
Genius, because she would wear you down.
Yeah.
She would just wear you down. I think it's brilliant strategy. I don't think
Brilliant.
it's yeah, I think she knew. It's just like Dick. Evil Dick
Ugh.
tortured those house guests. And Danielle was there for most of that. So she knew. It's not like you're shockingly going to Big Brother, don't know how it's played. And even later years, Josh did the same thing. I mean, I think Rachel paved the way for that. I'm going to be annoying as until they
Yes.
have no choice but to either be with me or get me the hell out of here. And she would just get you to the point that I don't think you could focus on your game. You couldn't focus on your strategy, on what you were doing for a competition.
You're
I'm sorry. I think
discombobulated.
it would mess you up.
I love that you bring up Josh because he is one of my favorites as well, but he's another example of someone just much like Rachel that during BB19, I was not a Josh fan. I was like, oh my God, this guy is not mentally maybe unwell. But then like looking back, I'm like, da 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 da. I was like singing with him, like, who wants me? I was like, it's great. Like, I love him.
See his TikTok play.
Nicolette and I chose Chaos Creators as like our intro to like getting ourselves ramped up for the BB season because like these are the types of people I think all three of us apparently enjoy because it's like, it's just, it's something that we don't get anymore. You know, there are people on our list like Angela Murray, for example. I would consider her a chaos creator, but she didn't intentionally torment anyone. She didn't.
Yeah.
She was just herself and it caused chaos. But like Rachel Reilly intentionally tormented people.
Yes.
You are exactly right.
And it was great back then. Now we can't do it anymore, but it was great back then. So at the end of each of these episodes, we are asking 3 little questions, and I will let you answer first. So the first of the 3 questions is, was Rachel a chaos creator because she was strategic or because she was just reckless? What are your thoughts?
I think Rachel, especially from season 12 to 13, was super, super strategic. I don't think there was anything reckless about her gameplay. I think sometimes she got a little ahead of herself. And especially in season 13, we would see Jordan pull her back. But I think she wanted to fuck with you so bad that you couldn't think about anything else because you were you could not stop thinking about the torment that she put you through. So I think it was masterfully strategic.
Nicolette, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Okay. So for this one, I have to break it up into the 2 different seasons because I think in season 12, it aired on the side of reckless. But I think in season 13, it was very much more so strategic.
Okay.
So it depends on the season. That's what I'm sticking with.
Fair.
I can see that. Okay, so I was going to say both as well, but I was leaning more towards strategic. But I could see your point, Nicolette, because valid. I could see how initially she started off as just like so reckless, but then she realized, oh, this is working. Like, this is actually working in my favor, and then turned it into like strategic gameplay. So I could see that. So the second question we were going to ask is, was Rachel entertaining or annoying to you? Amy, you first.
I'm going to steal Nicolette's answer from earlier. Season 12, I think she was a little annoying because I'm like, there's no way. There's no way she's like that. There's just no way. And then in season 13, she is that way. And I'm here for it. Like, I like her. She is authentically herself. I think she knows she's. Yeah. I mean, I have a laugh that's not becoming either, but I think she leans into that and she is who she is and she makes no apologies for that. So
I think we
I find her
expected it, right?
highly entertaining.
We started to expect it by season 13.
Yeah. And
I
here
said
we are
this-
talking about her 12 years later. So
Yes. 12 years.
Yeah.
And I said this earlier is that initially as a viewer, I did not like her, but looking back now, I love her. So I've grown to love her so, so, so much. So I think that's my opinion is that at the time, I have 2 different opinions, much like you guys have 2 different opinions about the 2 seasons. I have 2 different opinions about at the time, I would have told you annoying. In 2025, absolutely entertaining, and I will watch it again and again and again. Nicolette, do you have any other things to add about that?
No, I'm exactly the same as you, Allie, on this one. But whenever I was younger watching it at the time, I could not stand Rachel. And I was honestly like somewhat excited, but somewhat annoyed when I found out she was coming back for 13 because I was excited to see the Dick and Rachel dynamic and we kind of didn't get to see that. So then I was just annoyed that she was there. But now, today's time, entertaining, iconic, love it, and we need more of it.
I think if I remember correctly, that was like a piece in the very beginning of the first episode where once they all realized they were all in there together, I think I remember a scene of like Rachel and Dick both being like, this is not going to go well for, like, both of them were
Yeah.
like, ugh.
Both of them understood the game enough to know they were going to have to put those differences
Stick
aside
together.
because
Yeah.
they were short numbered. It was 6
Yep.
versus 8. So they both loved the game enough. They knew they were going to have to put that aside. It still would have made for great TV because, oh my God, they would have gone at each other.
Oh, yes.
I
Would've been
know.
awesome.
Okay, so and the last question we're asking is rate Rachel's chaos on a scale of 1 to 10. You first, Amy. What do you think?
I want to give Rachel a solid 8 for chaos because
it.
she pushed it just to the brink where you wanted to pull your hair out, but you didn't run out of the house screaming. So there's still got to be some room for perfection for a 9 or a 10, but I give her a definite solid 8.
Yeah. What do you think, Nicolette?
Yeah, I'm in that same range. I did 7.5, but I think for similar reasons, she's definitely up there. She's on that further end of the scale, but there's some others out there that are just a little bit more than her. They amped it up a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, so I also wrote down 7.5. So we all were like in the same
Right there together. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
great.
I
If you're
agree.
if you're a punishment for Pandora's box, you got to be higher than like you got to be higher than
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
You're the
Yeah,
punishment.
Yeah.
And learning what I just learned from Nicolette today, in the Patreon, like that's insane that they maybe potentially came up with that knowing we have to keep Rachel around for the views.
Yeah, they were looking for some way, any way to keep her on the screen, that's for sure.
He was
Now,
like she's like Tucker, but now, but Tucker back
What?
then. We just had to have more Tucker.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to have to be on our list of chaos creators 'cause we love
Yeah.
Tucker. I love Tucker. So, and we talk about chaos creators. We brought you on. I feel like that's slightly unfair because I don't think you were a chaos creator on your show, Amy. What do
No,
you think? I
I
think
don't
you
think
were
so.
like the mellow, calm, like you were constantly the person from the edit that I saw. You can correct me for everything that I don't know. But from the edit that I saw, you were the person that like people were confiding in and like you were comforting to a lot of the people on that show, particularly like Jeff and even Bo. Bo needed some encouraging words at times. So, what do you think? Do you think that that's your role or do you think that was a bad edit for you?
No, I knew going in that I was going to be a big cheerleader. That's how I am in my
Yes.
real life. And I even said in my cat, I got this. You hear me when I'm doing, Theron's like he's crying. I'm like, I've got this big bellowing voice that I'll use when I need to. And I knew I was at the time 225 pounds, worst shape of my life. I knew
No
when it was a
way.
physical competition that I was never. Oh, the internet's so bad. So I've lost 55 pounds. Yay for me. I don't think I was a chaos creator.
Okay, Amy, is there anything else? Because we could probably
No.
ramble on for like 75 years.
This has been wonderful. Please keep in touch. This has been so wonderful. Nicolette, it was so nice to meet you.
You too, Amy.
I'm just going to keep messaging you. So.
And Big Brother's coming in just a few weeks. We'll have so much to talk about.
Yeah, you'll have
I
to
know, I
join us
can't
like
wait.
whenever Big Brother season gets started. You'll have to like come
Yes.
and join us on like your thoughts on the season and like
Happy to.
yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us and I really appreciate it. Do you want to shout out your Instagram? You're like Oven Mom or something like that on TikTok?
Yeah, so I'm Oven Mom on TikTok. That's where most of my followers are. And I am AH Stevens 925 on Instagram. Just look up Amy Stevens. You'll see me.
All right. And we will see you next time. Bye everyone.
Good to see you.